Howdy, guys. Welcome to night 55 of Big Brother All-Stars. This is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Hope y'all had a fantastic Monday on to Tuesday morning. Now, I've got to say, watching these overnight feeds, I didn't think there was going to be much to them today to even talk about. We had feeds cutting in out quite a bit, but we actually had a conversation at the end of the evening that kind of made it all worthwhile, so we will get into that. But before we do, first, let's talk about a little bit of a refresher. Yesterday was the veto ceremony. Cody had won the veto. To no one's surprise, he chose not to use the veto. So Kevin and David are still on the block. One of them will be going home on Thursday, along with two other people that the house guests don't know about yet because we're having the triple eviction. So 3 people going home. Oh, so excited. All right. So let's get into some conversations throughout the evening. Let's start off early evening. This is in the HOH room. Christmas is talking to herself. She's just going over her days, trying to memorize everything. Remember, a lot of these people, house guests think that there's a double eviction, so that there could be some kind of quick question and answer competition. It may involve days, memorizing events that have happened. So a lot of people have been going over it this evening, including Christmas. She's talking to herself and the camera saying, it's going to get very hard to decide who to put up when I win, and when, not if, I win the next HOH. She's talking about Tyler, saying that he is a final 2 with her, but she just doesn't know where his head is at sometimes, and she's a little upset. She feels like he really disrespected the game when he asked to self-evict or asked to be voted out. She just does not like that. But she still has a final 2 with him besides that. All right, she's also saying that Memphis wants to take her to the end as a final 2, and I think those 2 may be a true final 2. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but also has Memphis as a final 2. She also told Nicole it would be nice to sit next to her as a final 2. She didn't call her final 2. She just said it'd be nice to sit next to her, which is absolutely a little bit different. And she mentions as well that Enzo also has said that he would like to take her to a final 2. So Christmas is feeling like she's got a lot of connections that all will take her to the very end. Careful, Christmas. You may not quite be as secure as you think you are. She also is talking about Cody. She says she feels very comfortable with him and that Cody is not going to be her first target. Well, Christmas, it may not go the other direction, as we'll visit in a little bit as well. But here's the other thing, too. She also is realizing this is Big Brother. It's All-Stars. She says, I've got all these different final 2s, but I know other people have multiple final 2s as well. She knows that Cody's tighter with Nicole than he is with her, so she understands the way things are going. But she is feeling like she's very safe with a lot of people. She talks about how she has a solid majority with the majority of the house. The one person that she doesn't really have that connection with, that she wants out as quickly as possible, is Danny. That's her number 1 target, and she vocalizes it this evening. She also mentions the idea that she and Enzo, she talks a little bit about pre-existing relationships, not necessarily pre-gaming, just pre-existing relationships. And she says, I don't know any of these people outside the game. Enzo doesn't know anyone outside the game. That's kind of, I hope people are cheering for us because we don't have all those existing relationships. It's a little bit harder for us than some of the other people. At this point during the conversation, she had moved from the HOH room to the key room to continue the conversation. At this point, Memphis walks in, says, look, we've got 3 people now, himself, Christmas, and Enzo. He says, we've got 3 of the 8 people left. Our odds are pretty good to carry this thing all the way to the end. We shall see. We shall see if it'll even carry you beyond Thursday, which is not a certainty, no matter what you may think, any of y'all. All right, so now in the kitchen, Memphis and Danny are talking. Danny is saying that Danny is telling Memphis that David told her he wants to stick around until the kitchen table gets smaller. And Danny asked him, said, is that the pitch that you're using this week, David? And he said, yeah, it is. And she said, come back when you have a better pitch. That one's horrible. And she tells Memphis, says, I'm embarrassed for him that would be his pitch. Danny has no sense of humor. I think it's hilarious. The milestones in that house, seeing Otev, Zingbot. I remember thinking back that when the table shrunk, that meant a lot to see that happen. So I get it from David. He was trying to be a little light with his pitch to her, but she just doesn't like her. She wants to have reasons to not like David this week, and there you go. But yeah, I think David wants to see the table get a little smaller, as did I. All right, so another conversation. Everyone's getting ready to go outside to play backdoor volleyball. They're all excited about it. Just as they're getting ready to head out the door, a lockdown is announced. No one says anything about yellers, wall yellers, anything like that. So we don't really know what's going on. The feed's cut out for 10 or 15 minutes, which becomes the theme of this evening. We have intermittent feeds all night long for quite a while. The house guests were told originally they would have the yard until midnight before it would shut down for the week. But now they're worried that with this lockdown that was unannounced, that they may be in for the rest of the night. They're not going to be able to do their laundry, which they were planning to do. So they're not happy at all. But a lockdown occurs. A little bit later, the feeds do come back on. And we see that Christmas, this is in the living room. Christmas is telling Enzo that she doesn't think that Danny or Nicole are going to win the next HOH because, Danny won the wall endurance, but hey, it was thrown to her. She didn't really win it. It just was a competition that was thrown to her. And she says neither one of them has won anything. So there's not a chance they're gonna win this next HOH. Well, she may be right, but I think it's funny coming from Christmas, from the person who won her HOH this season by just standing at a podium and not hitting the button a single time throughout the entire competition and letting other people do all the work. But anyway, so she thinks the two of them don't have a chance to win, and she may be right on that. All right, in the backyard, we do have the backyard back. It was a lockdown that ended long enough for them to go do more laundry and things like that. So they have the backyard. But here's the funny thing. It sounds like at one point Tyler opens up the door to go to the backyard, and you can hear through his microphone loud music. I don't want to say, maybe it's Taylor Swift, something like that, but you can hear loud music in the backyard. And it seems like for quite a while for the rest of the evening, early evening, every time someone goes near the back door, starts to open up the back door, feeds cut. And I don't know if there's music going on, if there's a wall yeller, maybe they're trying to drown voices out with this music. Don't know. Maybe there was a party going on of some sort. They all had hamburgers and fries, and they kind of had a party little atmosphere. They got alcohol tonight as well. So maybe something was going on. We never did hear, but anytime anyone got close to that door, the feeds were cutting. So I don't know what was going on. I still don't know. All right, so in the kitchen, Nicole and Danny, Kevin, and I think that's it. Nicole, Danny, Kevin are speaking. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Nicole, Danny, and Kevin are speaking. Nicole's complaining about her hand hurting from the OTEF competition. Later in the storage room, Nicole is complaining that she burned her hand while cooking. Later, Nicole in the comic room is complaining that her neck is bothering her from OTEV. Later, Nicole is complaining that her lips hurt after she accidentally touched them after putting icy hot on her hurt hand, neck, back, whatever, take your pick. So Nicole's got some complaints going on this evening. Enzo is complaining that he's having some backside itchy issues. We'll just leave it like that. He's itching where it's little embarrassing to scratch sometimes. Christmas is complaining that she is feeling broken down this season. Earlier than ever before this season, she's feeling broken down. Danny responds to her and says, well, you were kind of already broken down before it began. Dig, right? Yeah. So she throws that out at her. And then at the end, Nicole is saying that she likes sleeping in the comic room now because otherwise a house guest complained that she moans in her sleep. So that didn't all happen in a single conversation. It was throughout the evening, but I just thought it was funny. People are feeling a little broken down, feel a little uncomfortable this week. It's going to get worse. Wait till the stress levels ramp up, and then let's see how your comfort level's going, guys. But yeah, it was funny kind of documenting all of those. All right, in the kitchen, David, Cody, Tyler, Enzo, and Kevin, so a whole group in there talking. Danny is saying that she has a bad feeling because of how early the backyard was closing, around midnight or so, as I mentioned. David is saying they must be building something big out there because I can hear it already. Yeah, one big thing or a whole lot of little competitions, as we're aware. All the house guests are talking about the Toy Story movie and which house guest should play which character, hence the background here. I know a lot of people, Tyler and Cody, are both saying they want to be Buzz Lightyear. I think everyone agrees that Memphis probably needs to play Sid, the next door neighbor who blows everything up and all that. So, but there's a lot of conversation on that, which was kind of fun to watch. So now we get into the big conversation that really took up a lot of the later evenings. After everyone else is in bed, up in the HOH room, we've got Cody and Enzo talking again for a long conversation. They start off talking about who their targets are, who they think are targeting them. And we'll talk about that. But here's the thing. It's not so much each individual comment they're making as the fact that they are sharing this information so openly with one another that really suggests to me that these two are feeling incredibly tight. There's so many alliances going on in this house. How do you know which ones are true, which ones are not? After tonight, I think Cody and Enzo may really consider each other to be a final two partnership because they were just very open with what they were talking about. So some of the conversation, some of the key points, and I'll go through these a little quick because there's a lot of them, but Cody says that he's nominating Danny and Christmas and sending Christmas home first next time he wins an HOH, which could be sooner rather than later based on the format of the final three. But those are his main targets, Danny and Christmas, with Christmas going home first. Remember earlier this evening, Christmas saying, oh, Cody isn't, I feel comfortable with Cody. He's not my primary target. It doesn't work the opposite direction, Christmas, I'm afraid to tell you. Enzo is saying, he's talking about Christmas, and he said, I wanted Christmas to become my pit bull, and she has. She'll do the dirty work. She's going to do a lot of work. So a little bit of conflict between the two of them in terms of how they want to use Christmas and what they think about Christmas. They think that Tyler would go after Danny and Nicole if he won HOH, which is fine with them. They don't have any problem with that. They would both target Danny ahead of Nicole, so I think they're good with that. They talk about Memphis. They say, look, if Memphis wins HOH, he's going to probably put up David and Nicole and use Tyler as either a backdoor or as a replacement. The idea is they're trying to figure out, is there anyone who would target us, being Enzo and Cody, first, or are we safe because everyone has bigger targets? And they're feeling pretty safe. They're thinking that if Danny wins, that she'll put up Christmas and David with Tyler again as a backdoor. Cody is telling Enzo that, hey, Enzo, if you win this thing on Thursday, he says, put David up. He's an easy pawn. You don't want to get your blood on hands with two different people. Put David up. Blame it on him taking that 10K prize as the excuse for putting him up on the block. And then we can pick someone else as the primary target. They are assuming that Christmas and Danny will not come for Cody and Enzo, so they're safe with them. Enzo is reporting that Christmas had told him that she really thought they should just jump over David, go ahead and save them, and take out Danny immediately. Danny is Christmas's big target. Cody and Enzo are down with that. Yeah, fine. She wants to do that. We're not going to complain at all. Enzo is worried about Tyler and Christmas. He doesn't think that Tyler necessarily feels tight with Cody and Enzo. But having said that, Enzo also thinks that Tyler would be willing to go to a final three with them if the situation presented itself. They both are kind of wanting David to win HOH because they think that he will go after others, and they're probably right. They're thinking he'd either go after Danny and Nicole or Memphis and Christmas. Cody is asking Enzo if Christmas ever told Enzo that she had the power, and Enzo said no. Well, she did. He's just kind of trying to not make it seem like there's quite as tight a connection between him and Christmas in front of Cody. Enzo wants to do a joint DR session a la Chilltown, where they can talk about all the alliances that they've booted. They've been practicing their day's memory. Cody has it down. Enzo doesn't have it down at all. He hasn't been practicing at all. So Cody's saying, you got to learn your days, who got evicted, votes, things like that. Cody's saying that the season's hard because he doesn't have any hard targets. People are talking about him coming after him. So he doesn't know as easily who he needs to go after. Well, that may all change, Cody, come Thursday. Finally, Enzo is thinking that Tyler's keeping David just because he wants to use David to get Danny, which is probably true, partly true. They're both talking about wanting Nicole with them as a final three. Again, I think they're very tight as a final two, but they're both thinking having a Nicole with them in a final three, having the three of them as a final five guarantees that the two of them could get to a final two together. And finally, Cody's thinking at Christmas and Memphis are feeling extra tight based just on the fact that Christmas kept throwing out this Wise Guys Alliance name to Enzo while they were around other people as an inside joke. And Cody's saying if she's that comfortable with it, she and Memphis probably feel like they're the two true people and that they just kind of drug you in and drug me in as accessory people. But those are probably the final two there. And there's something to be said for that. All right, guys, so a long conversation between these two that had a lot of information, but primarily showing how tight they are together. All right, y'all have a fantastic Tuesday. I will see y'all tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, about 24 hours. SKD 143. Y'all have a great one, guys. Cheers.